Hi, everybody. It's Ruth Medlin here with Second Cup, and we are so honored and privileged today to welcome Sue Painter to um, our meeting time today. So, Sue, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview. I love you and I respect you so much, and I just knew that you would be chock full of information for entrepreneurs who are looking for information about business owning, leadership, entrepreneurship, all those kinds of things that we're always interested in. So, Sue, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
So let's get started with, you have been an entrepreneur for a long time, right?
Yes, I have been an entrepreneur for a long time, since I left the corporate world, um, much to my parents' dismay, back in 1998. And had a job where I flew all over the country and sometimes the world, and big job, but it wasn't fulfilling for me. So I left and was a corporate dropout. And I have owned several businesses since then. The current one is really the one you know me through, The Confident Marketer.
Right. Yes. And tell us a little bit about how you parlayed your corporate knowledge and your common sense into being an entrepreneur, because 1998, that's a long time to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it is. I know it. I'm getting long of tooth. What can I say? I'll tell you, when I left the corporate world, I really wanted to have my own business. And I had been, my job in the corporate world, I was the executive director of a portion of a research entity, research organization. And I learned very quickly, I had to go to Washington and other points, and I had to make proposals to bring in work. And if I didn't bring work in the door with these, anywhere from $250,000 to $5 million proposals, then I had to lay off staff. I had 72 people who worked for me as researchers, and it was my job to keep the coffers full. So I became adept with learning how to speak the language of the customer, and learning how to talk about, listen really well, and talk about what we had that would meet their needs. So when I left the corporate world and went out to on my own, the first thing I did was, actually, I dropped completely out and I became a massage therapist. And I opened a therapeutic massage center in the city that we lived in there, brick and mortar, and marketed myself so successfully that within the first 6 months, I was already booked for a year out, and nobody's going to want to wait a year to have a massage. So I started staffing up and I built a clinic. And then people started asking me, how did you get booked and how did you build your business so quickly? And it's because I marketed, and I wasn't making the mistake of hanging my shingle out in the front lawn and expecting the world to be to path to my door, which is what a lot of people who are solo practitioners do.
Mhm.
So it kind of went from there. I started talking with people and they would pick my brains over breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And finally, I thought, this is I could be doing, that's how The Confident Marketer was born. I could be doing this as a second business. And eventually it became my main business. And after 14 years, I sold the massage practice to one of my employees, actually.
Mm-hmm. And then you turned your full focus onto being a marketing consultant expert.
Yes, marketing consultant, coaching people, small businesses put me on retainer for, I can have a monthly strategy session with them, or I can coach them through, if they want to, what are the basics of their business and how do they best reach their customer? Is it email marketing? Is it social media marketing? Is their website pulling in the right type of person? You have an opportunity in your online space to put out a sign that about who you are and what you do. And that sign needs to both attract the right people to your business and repel the ones who are not the ones for you. And so sometimes websites are not set up very well to do that, or the email marketing that a business puts out doesn't really call to the people who they're reaching with that email with the right kind of offer. And a lot of that has to do with brand clarity. I really pay attention to brand clarity, what the mindset is of the business owner, and the brand clarity. Do they really know who they are? Do they know exactly what their customer is buying, which often they don't? and what tools are they using? How can we minimize the tools and the cost of those tools, but still have them reaching who they need to reach in a way that works for them?
Mhm.
I see a lot of complicated business systems with small business owners, and a lot of times that's so complicated they end up having to hire staff to execute it. And then their operating costs go sky high and they're not making any profit. Or they get into the habit of discounting, deep discounting to bring customers in the door. And that's never a good idea because you're training the customer to wait for a sale.
Right. So now that you've done that for so long a period of time, I know one of the things I always look forward to are your emails. You always have such uh, uh, great tips and ideas and suggestions. And I'm
Thank you.
just, well, no, thank you for sending them out. But I often think to myself, do you write those just before you put them out? Do you have an archive list? How have you developed that that marketing piece of, you're so helpful that I want to know more about you. I want to be around you more. How have you done that whole writing piece of it?
I've been a blogger on the Confident Marketer. Confident Marketer started in 2006, and I've been blogging on the Confident Marketer website since 2006. So there's probably over 1,000 articles on there now. But how I develop my emails, I typically do write them either the night before or the morning of. I do set them up ahead of time sometimes if I'm going to be away or if I've got a really busy week and I know that I'm not going to get in my email system. But what I've tried to do is take the tack of telling the stories of what is going on with either my business or someone else's business. And using that as a story and a teaching mechanism. And also I study a lot and read a lot and take courses a lot and develop myself a lot, have my own mentors. So when I learn something that I can apply for my own business, I try also to share that and say, here's a way in which you can use this in your business too. So I'm kind of one of those constant learner people, but I think a lot of entrepreneurs are that way, really.
Hmm. Right. I feel the same way. Like if you're not constantly willing to learn, I think some
Yeah.
people kind of get in that rut and say, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But
Uh-huh.
at the same time, are you missing out because you're just satisfied with the status quo? And
Yeah, and in the world of the internet, that's a dangerous thing.
mhm,
I have done that before where I've thought, well, things are working, let's not mess around. But the internet changes so much, the nature of it changes, how it works changes. And you have to be savvy to that. Like, SEO has changed, search engine optimization, SEO has changed many times in the past 10 years. What worked on your website won't work anymore. And site speed has always been important, but now it's becoming even more important. Of course, a couple of years ago, 5, 6, 7, how long? It must have been 7 years ago now. Everybody had to go to mobile responsive websites that would adapt to whether they were on an iPhone or a tablet or sitting at your desk on a full size computer or laptop. So there's constant changes. Google changes things. And social media platforms, as you well know, have changed dramatically in the last 5 or 6 years. So you do kind of have to keep up with what is going on in the marketing space and is what you are doing still working? If it's not constantly giving you some percentage of growth and you're staying stable, you're making a mistake because stable is the precursor to down. so, so
yeah,
first you go up, then you get stable. When you're stable, it's time to start looking for what do you need to improve to keep that uptick. Because if you don't, pretty soon stable will start falling off. And I see a lot of businesses do that. Entrepreneurs are busy. A lot of times they're solopreneurs. They don't have a lot of time to take you on they don't know how to keep up with the trends or they don't know how to affect making the changes. And they're not techie and they are loath to hire it done. But when you don't do that, You either die or grow over the long term. A small business is either going to die or grow. There's no stasis, really. We think there is, but there's not.
Mhm. Right. So, what are some things about leading yourself? Because you mentioned, most entrepreneurs are solopreneurs, or a lot of them are.
Yeah.
And, I'll speak for myself. I certainly knew how to lead people in my former jobs, but how does one learn to lead oneself in, there's nobody but you, right? You're in this square and there's nobody but you. What are some leadership tips that you have for solopreneurs?
Yeah, I am a big believer in having a group or two that you are a part of, and that you also have
Mhm.
some type of a mentor. I am very lucky in that I found mentors early on in my entrepreneurial career who were very, very successful businessmen and women who owned multi-billion-dollar businesses, and they agreed to shepherd me and mentor me. And to this day, they'll call me up and say, "What are you doing about this?" or "What are you doing about that?" And it reminds me that I have to keep myself on my toes. When you are in the throes of your business and you are so busy delivering services and marketing, then it's hard to get outside of your box and think about what else is going on. So, being in a couple of forums, or being in something like my CEO Circle community, or being in a Facebook group that you feel like helps you to grow and gives you the inside scoop on things, those things to me are critical, because you can't just exist in a vacuum. No, no business really exists well in a vacuum. Also, if you even my business isn't local like you, I work online, so I work with people all over the world, but it's still, nevertheless, it's good to have local contacts and to develop some kind of a local community where you can go once the pandemic was over, go and have a cup of coffee with somebody and get to know them and talk about business back and forth. I think you have to get rid of those feelings of isolation by making sure it's on your calendar to reach out in certain ways.
Mhm. Yes, we here in Cincinnati have been talking about going back live and in person, and some of the networking groups have just, well, in fact, just here in July, there's one group that I belong to up in Dayton area. This is their first in-person event.
Yeah.
So, we're all saying baby steps and taking it slow and easy. But that feeling of breaking through that isolation, we didn't like it when we were isolated, and now we're some of us aren't liking it to have to break back out into
I
the
know it's
real world.
I know it's strange for me. I mean, I've worked online for years now, so the fact that I had to go online was nothing new to me. I spend most of my days in Zoom rooms like this anyway. But having to meet constantly in meetings that used to be live events, or have those live events canceled, it did make me feel more isolated. But it also kind of makes you lazy. It's like, oh, you got to get dressed up and you got to go drive. So there is an entry point to that too. I understand that.
Right.
Yeah.
And some of us have gained some weight. So some of those clothes that we could dress up in,
Uh,
hanging in the closet, may not work exactly well for us these days, too. I'm kind of facing that thinking, okay,
uh,
what am I going to wear to that event? Because I don't know.
yeah,
Kind of worried. Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. So you mentioned your CEO circle. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I started the CEO Circle about 2 years. It'll be 2 years this coming October, and it is for women entrepreneurs. And we meet twice a month, uh, and it is really for women who want to sustain in their business over the long term, and they really want a place for support and for kicking around new ideas, for getting feedback and information from me, but also from the other members of the group. It's a small group, um, and also, we talk about all of the things that impact us as business owners, because you, whatever is happening with you personally, that feeds over into your business. So if somebody has a sick parent, or is moving across the country, or is facing some kind of a health challenge, then it's also a place where we can talk about how do you sustain your business while you go through this transitory thing, and then come out on the other end. Or lately, the talk, some of it was, how do you sustain your business during the pandemic when people's attention spans have gotten really short? How do you change your marketing materials? How has the pandemic changed you and maybe made you want to offer something else? I think that we need to realize as entrepreneurs that our business will always grow and change because we are growing and changing. And also, our clients or customers are growing and changing too. So, we all end up in different spaces, and there's nothing wrong with refurbishing your brand or looking at how clear your brand is and wanting to do a brand refresh or offer new things, take away things that aren't working. That's the nature of entrepreneurship. And I think sometimes it scares people, but actually it's normal. So the CEO Circle is set up to be that place where people can come in and be known and be welcome and be saying, this is what's going on. And I need help with this, or I think this is working. What do you guys think? Oh, it's rich and deep in that way.
Mhm. And is that, you say you meet twice a month and it's a group of women. Do you limit the amount of people that's in it, or is it?
I like to keep the group to no more than 12, and I have room right now. I have about 6 or 7, I think, in the group right now. And it kind of went, there is no, I do not require like a year-long commitment. It's month to month, although I tell people when they approach me about joining, if you're not willing to stay for 6 months, it really isn't going to do you that much good because you're not going to get to know the other people. And, part of it is sometimes people can do business with each other. They get to know each other and they realize they can work collaboratively, or they have resources for each other that help back and forth. I met with them yesterday when somebody was looking for a new VA, and one of the other members had a good name for them. So it is a place for community, even though it's a virtual community. And we meet twice a month. The first meeting of the month is what we talk about, acknowledgement. Are you doing that's going well? Ask, what do you need from me or from the group? And then accountability. What are you saying you want to work on this month? Your one thing that you want to work on this month. And then the second meeting of the month is really a free for all. Anything's open for discussion. Sometimes I'll teach a little bit for the first 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'll go into a discussion that takes off from that. So, and then people can, contact me in between. We have a private forum and we have a private place on my website. They have a private playlist on my video channel where they have resources that I don't share with anybody except the CEO Circle community.
Nice. Okay. So last question, and I always ask this whenever I have the opportunity to talk with an entrepreneur. What is one thing that you would tell a brand new entrepreneur just starting out? What's one thing that they really need to hone in on, focus in, just your bit of advice?
Yeah, I love that question. And I've said the same thing for 20 years, and I guess I will always say it. And that is consistent action. People ask me sometimes, well, how is it that you own multiple businesses now and you've been successful? And I'm like, look, I don't have anything that you don't have except that I am really stubbornly consistent. I will get up every day and I will do the thing, and I'll get up the next day and I'll do the thing, and I don't let things get in my way. You can have a business that gives you a lot of free time, but you have to structure that business and you have to say no to other things sometimes. If you're not willing to do that, then the consistency won't be there. So, really consistent, it can be small action, but it needs to be consistent action. That's the trick. Honestly, that's the trick, because 95% of people who start a business will not be consistent. By being consistent alone, you're a winner.
What a great piece of advice. I love that. Well, Sue, it has been such a pleasure to have you here with us today. And I want to make sure before we leave you, let's find out again, how do people get a hold of you if they've listened to what we've had to say today and they think, man, I want to connect with Sue? What's the best way to do that?
Okay, you can reach me directly at sue@confidentmarketer.com. But you can also, if you want to get on my email list, since Ruth says she reads my emails,
I
go,
do faithfully.
go to confidentmarketer.com/free report. and it'll ask you for your name and your email, and then I'll send you, I have a booklet about 20 ways to build a business without overwhelm and frustration, 20 questions to ask yourself. And I'll send you that, and then you will be on my email list, and you'll see those emails that Ruth is talking about. So, and thank you so much for having me, Ruth. I really appreciate it.
Well, perfect. I have to say some of your freebie handouts that you give are fantabulous too. So contact Sue. I tell you, she is so knowledgeable, and she's so easy to talk to too. I feel like I've known you for 1,000,001 years, and we've never met in person. So
I know one of these days we will.
we
See.
will, absolutely. Well, Sue, thank you again. I appreciate it. So yeah. Have a great day, and we'll be back next Thursday with Second Cup. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.